To all my insomniacs and night owls out there, if you're up this late, then you're in the right place. This is Static After Dark. So grab your snack, grab your drink, and let's get into this creepy story about an abandoned church that has something trapped inside. Alright, let's get into it. Tonight's story comes from a caller who says she and her friends explored an abandoned church with a history so disturbing that locals refused to even drive past it after dark. According to her, back in the 1960s, an exorcism was performed there after a young woman began exhibiting violent behavior that priests claimed couldn't be explained. The story goes that whatever happened inside that church ended in tragedy, and the building was abandoned shortly after. Most people treated it like an urban legend. That is, until her friends decided to go inside. There were 6 of us. We'd all heard stories about St. Matthew's Church growing up. Everyone in town knew about it. The church sat isolated at the end of a dead road surrounded by woods, completely abandoned and rotting for decades. People said an exorcism happened there in the late 60s. Nobody could agree on exactly what happened, but every version ended badly. One version said the girl died during the ritual. Another said the priest disappeared. The creepiest rumor was the people involved locked something inside the church before abandoning it. I didn't believe any of it. At least, not then. It was sometime around October when we decided to go. My friend Marco was obsessed with paranormal stuff and kept insisting we should spend the night there. And then there was Elise. Elise claimed she was a medium. Not in an over-the-top way either. She wasn't one of those people constantly trying to prove it. She actually hated talking about it, which honestly made it feel more believable. The second we stepped inside the church, she went quiet. The air smelled old, wet wood, dust, mold, but underneath all of that, there was this weird sulfur-like smell that kept coming and going. We used our phone flashlights to look around. The pews were overturned, half the stained glass windows were shattered. There were old hymn books scattered everywhere, like people had left in a hurry. And the deeper we went inside, the more uneasy Elise became. At one point, she grabbed my arm and quietly said, "We shouldn't be here long." I remember laughing nervously and asking why. She just stared toward the back hallway and whispered, "Something feels wrong." That's when Marco started teasing her. "Here we go," he said. "The spirits are talking already." She ignored him. Towards the back of the church, we found a small office connected to what used to be a priest study. Most of the room was empty except for an old closet built into the wall. One of our friends noticed scrape marks on the floor, like the closet had been moved before. So, naturally, we moved it. Behind it was another door, but not a normal door. A small, hidden one built directly into the wall. I swear the temperature dropped the second we opened it. Inside was a tiny room barely big enough for 2 people to stand in comfortably. The walls were covered floor to ceiling in handwritten scripture. Pages from Bibles had been nailed into the wood, crosses hung upside down, and in the center of the room sat a chair. Old leather straps hung from the armrests. Nobody spoke for a few seconds. Then, Marco laughed. "Nope, absolutely haunted." One of my friends lit a match because our phone batteries were dying, and in that tiny orange glow, the room looked even worse. That's when Marco joked about sitting in the chair. Elise immediately said, "Don't." Not loudly, just very serious. Marco rolled his eyes. "Oh my god, Elise, you cannot actually believe in this stuff." She wouldn't even look at him. "I'm serious." That's when he started mocking her. "If you're really a medium, then prove it." Nobody laughed. The mood had shifted hard at this point. Then Marco pointed at the chair. "Go on, conjure something." I remember telling him to shut up, but Elise suddenly walked into the room herself. I, of course, followed, but she seemed almost irritated. She sat down in the chair, and the second she did, the closet door slammed shut. The sound echoed through the church so loud, all of us screamed. We rushed to the door trying to pull it open while the other half of the group attempted to open it from the outside, but it wouldn't budge. From inside the room, Elise started breathing heavily. Not screaming, just breathing. Slow, uneven. Then started laughing quietly to herself. I remember all of us freezing because it sounded like her laugh, just different. Marco still thought she was messing around. Okay, seriously, enough. Elise kept laughing. Then she stopped. Complete silence. I pulled out my little voice recorder because I honestly thought we were about to catch something creepy for proof online. So I hit record. Marco leaned toward the crack in the door and said, "If you're possessed, prove it." For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then Elise spoke, except her voice sounded strained, like two voices trying to talk at once. "Come closer." Marco actually leaned in. Then she whispered something into his ear through the crack in the doorway. I couldn't hear it, but I heard Marco stumble backward instantly. "What the hell?" He sounded genuinely terrified. "How do you know that?" Nobody answered. From inside the room, we heard Elise laughing again, only now it sounded wrong. Wet. Almost choking. One of our friends started crying while another kept slamming against the door trying to force it open. Then the match went out. For a second, the only light left came from one dying phone flashlight, and in that dim light, I saw Elise standing perfectly still inside the crack of the doorway. Her pupils looked enormous, almost completely black. Then she smiled and said, "Marco." The way she said his name made my stomach drop. The flashlight died and everything went black. Immediately, everyone started panicking. People were screaming over each other. I heard someone fall. Something slammed against the wall. Then suddenly, I collided with someone and hit the floor hard on my back. Right as I looked up, flash! One of my friends accidentally triggered the disposable camera she brought. For one split second, the room lit up, and I saw Elise crouched over me, her face inches from mine. Her eyes looked completely black. Not shadowed, black. She started whispering rapidly into my ear, so fast I couldn't understand it. The smell coming off her breath was awful, like something rotten. I remember feeling suddenly very dizzy, like all the air had vanished from the room. Then everything went dark. I woke up in my own bed the next morning. Apparently, one of my friends managed to pull Elise off of me, and the second they did, she collapsed unconsciously. And according to them, the closet door opened immediately afterward like nothing had ever been blocking it. Half the group took Elise home. The others stayed with me because they thought I might have had a concussion. By the next afternoon, our group chat was exploding with messages. Elise had finally woken up, and she remembered absolutely nothing. Not the room, not the chair, nothing. That should have made me feel better. Instead, it made me feel worse because that night, while everyone else had gone downstairs, I noticed my voice recorder sitting on my nightstand, still recording. I almost deleted it without listening, but curiosity got the better of me. Most of the audio was useless. Static, screaming, shuffling. Then, near the very end, I heard her voice, right next to my ear, perfectly clear. And what she whispered made my blood run cold. "I'm so glad you finally came. I've always been with you, in the dark, watching, waiting, and now you're here. And you're taking me out of here." Well, you're gonna catch me going to no abandoned church, okay? If you have your own horrifying tale that you would love to share, please feel free to reach out. Just don't be surprised if something answers back. My name's Sam, I was your host for this evening, and this was Static After Dark. I hope to see you next Friday because we have a new tale every week. Alright, see you later. Bye! Whoosh.